I would also like to take a moment to thank Greta and Starks App for being our partner on this panel, for being a true believer in inclusive filmmaking and distribution, and for everyone working together to make this possible. Absolutely, no problem. I'll pass your mic over to you, Amy.
Sorry, I have to make something known here. How you doing, guys? I'm Emmanuel. This is an accessibility panel. So if there are people from Cannes Film Festival here right now, every stage needs to have a ramp no matter what it is. Now, personally, I don't need a ramp, but there are millions of people globally that do need a ramp, and these millions could be at your festival making you a shit ton of money. So do better, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for making that point. Yes, we're here in Cannes, the heart of the iconic red stairs, which are fundamentally inaccessible. So,
and to make it even more ironic, I was outside those iconic red stairs yesterday, and there was a whole bunch of gates in front of them. So if you ever wanted a more perfect thing of there being a barrier for deaf and disabled people in film and television, that's it. A, it's stairs, and B, there's a barrier in front of the stairs in the first place. So if you wanted an image, that's it.
Well, we don't shy away from the tough topics and the tough things to say in the world of impACT. So you've heard briefly. Let me give you a deeper introduction to our three panelists. So on my far right, left, right, we have Emmanuel Kelly, who is an X Factor Australia sensation. He is the first self-described differently abled pop star. He has performed with Coldplay, with Snoop Dogg. He has headlined London Fashion Week, I believe. And we are thrilled that he is here tonight. This week, very recent, is it this week? Tomorrow, he is launching a new Outlier entertainment company with Chris Martin, which aims to bridge the gap between disabled and non-disabled communities so that there is no gap, so that we are all in fact outliers together. And he's going to tell us more about that. Sitting next to Emmanuel, we have Seneit Debese, who is the founder of Greta and Starks app, which have very warmly sponsored this panel today. And Greta and Starks is doing the practical work to actually bring accessibility into the film industry by making content accessible in different ways. And I'm going to leave Greta again to tell us more about her work so that she can share it with you all in a way that will be super powerful. And then Dan here today, Dan Edge, who is a professional performer and a passionate disability advocate. He is also, forgive me if I get this wrong, was it the lead executive consultant on disability accessibility?
It's a long title.
It's a long title.
I am disability and access consultant for C Talent, both a talent agency and global consulting agency that's disabled led. And we work within film, television and media to work with existing film, television and media companies. When you don't quite know the answers, we've got them for you, and it's my job to tell you them so that it makes working with deaf and disabled talent the best it can be, and the amazing deaf and disabled talent can just get on and do their job.
Fantastic. And C Talent has worked with Netflix and Sony and so many others. And also exciting, you had company news this week that you have been acquired by a global, again, I forget the title, but they're called Whaler, and they are incredible, and they are empowering you to kind of take your message further and for C Talent to do more things within the influencer space and within the entertainment industry as a whole. So lots of exciting news this week, lots of progress in business opportunities, and business opportunities is absolutely where this panel sits, because we can talk about the problems, but we also want to talk about the solutions, and we want to talk about the value of those solutions. So maybe Emmanuel, let's start with you. Tell us about Outlier and why this mission to bring deaf and disabled and disabled, non-disabled talent and opportunities together, and to kind of make it so that it's not each in their own different segment, but we're all kind of mainstreamed across the board.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Outlier was incepted when I was actually 12 years old. So I had a dream when I was about 12, exploring the film and television sector. I wanted to be an actor. But the problem with the acting world that I saw was if I went for it, I would be just boxed into one area and I'd be having to play disabled, differently abled roles. Now, I call it differently abled, and the reason for that is because I think there are people who do lack the ability to do certain things like go upstairs, but for me, I don't lack any of those abilities, or I'm not really inhibited. I just look different. So for me, I found a way to make everything accessible for myself, no matter what the circumstance is. So I'm lucky. I've been empowered to do that by my mum, by an incredible support system. But there's a lot out there that haven't been, right? And so Outlier was that conceptualized dream that I had as a child, to want to be able to create a world where the entire world is accessible, right? We've built a society over thousands of years where there is no accessibility, and over thousands of years people who are differently disabled, have been seen as an unvalued member of society. Throw them to the side, discard them, put them to the side, you know, disavow them, put it, you know, they don't exist, right? And with Outlier, we want to create an existence, you know, we want to create a strong value. We want to show corporations, film companies, whatever it is, non-profits, anything, schools. We want to show that it is a value place. It's an outlier place to be. And the reality is, we're all different. We're all special. We're all unique in our own ways. And frankly, every single person in this room probably is differently abled in some way, or has a disability, you know. This guy right here, I know for a fact he can't do handstand push-ups. Does that make him disabled? No, he's just different. I can, right? Sorry, Tomato. His name's Tommaso, but I call him Tomato. Makes sense, right? So the reality is there is a huge opportunity in this market. It's the largest untapped market in the world, a $13.5 trillion market. People who are differently abled, disabled people, have a far more and higher spending power than your everyday individual, or what we perceive. The one thing we have the ability to control is perception, what we perceive as normal. And on top of that, there's 1.8 billion of us in the world. And that doesn't include the carers, the parents, the sisters, the best friends, right? And that's the greatest thing about this market, is you don't just tap into people who are differently abled. You tap into everybody else, the ancillaries, right? So that's the reality, and it's exciting. So Outlier aims to bridge that gap. Outlier aims to open that industry and that door, and it aims to show the world that there is humongous, tremendous, massively, enormous, crazy amount, I'll name every single word there is to know, value there. And so Cannes Film Festival, it starts here though. It starts in the film industry, because the one place, and I'll end with this, the one thing that we have the ability to control, as I said, is perception. There would not be a Fenty, there would not be a Fenty, a Dr. Dre, all these people, if there weren't people that came before them to end the stigma, to allow innovation to start flourishing. So Outlier aims to end that stigma, to allow innovators to come around, to allow the C talents and people like that to come along and say, yo, we're here. We've been trying to do this, but we need support, right? We need backing. Outlier aims to do that for them, and in turn, do it for every single other person in the world as well, if we can.
Well, that is an exciting vision. I mean, I was really struck by how you started that, and you talked about wanting to be an actor, but, you know, if you were going to be an actor, you would only get disabled roles. And actually, I want to come to Dan here, because this is something that C Talent, I know, does a lot of work on, in kind of normalizing disabled people being experts in subjects other than disability. And actually, what I'd really like you to talk about is kind of what Emmanuel talked about in terms of collaboration. And yeah, the film industry has missed a lot of opportunities to collaborate with disabled people and the disabled community in its broadest sense, to sort of really understand perspective and needs, and how to tell stories that are, you know, authentic, that really resonate, how to have experiences on set, behind the camera. You know, can you talk a bit about the challenges, but can you also maybe give us some examples of where you and C Talent have consulted that's been really successful? So kind of, you know, what has worked well?
Okay, so C Talent consult as well as for film and television. We also do a lot of work in commercials. So I'm going to give you an example of a commercial that, well, 2 commercials that we've made recently with companies. One of which was for the National Lottery in the United Kingdom, and the other was with the International Paralympic Committee called We the 15. And this National Lottery advert, we got a phone call from the advertising company, and they said to me, they said, Dan, we've got this idea for an advert. Our lead is a wheelchair user, and he's going to go around the corner in his wheelchair. He's going to end up on the top of a skate ramp. He's going to go down that skate ramp. He's going to fly off the skate ramp, land on a beach, get chased by Vikings. Then he's going to crash into a museum, play xylophone on a dinosaur, and then fly off the steps on a giant parachute. How the heck are we going to do this? And it was my job to make that happen. And the joy of working on that project was the fact that there wasn't a question of, why should we do this? Are we going to do this? The question was, how are we going to do it? Please help us do it. And that's the question you should always ask when it comes to disabled talent, is how do we do it? Not why, not when, not how much is it going to cost, but how are we going to do it? How do we make it accessible? How do we achieve it? And we did that with that advert. We made that happen. You can find it on YouTube. Google the National Lottery, a wheelchair user, and it will come up and you can watch it. Then we were contacted by the International Paralympic Committee, and they said, we want to make a commercial, and we want to shoot all over the world in the middle of a pandemic with everybody with varying disabilities and impairments. And we want hard of hearing and deaf people, we want amputees, we want wheelchair users. How are we going to do it? And so we work with them to make that happen. And I think the thing is, when it comes to creating new products, new storylines, and telling authentic stories, it's about accessing those people with the proper lived experience. For example, if you were writing a film about a doctor and you're not a doctor, who are you going to go and talk to? Doctors. If you were going to make a film about athletes and you weren't an athlete, who are you going to go and talk to? Athletes. But nobody ever talks to disabled people. They think they understand disability. They think they know, and they go, this is how I think disabled people would think and feel. And so we've had numerous films where the storyline, to put it politely, isn't the best. And I could make a list. I could, but that's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about positivity. So I think one of the things that is a great takeaway is that Emmanuel's already mentioned it. We've talked about having access to this huge audience, and that audience is hungry to see proper perception of themselves, to see what they see in everyday life. Because let me break it down to you, as well as being disabled, I can also be a brother, a father, a cousin, a boyfriend, a husband that lives day to day every single day. But the thing is, you never see that story on screen. You never see the disabled boyfriend where his impairment isn't mentioned. It has to be that generally in film and television, disabled people are either villains, victims, or inspirations. And I'll break that down. We're either villains because, oh, our lives must be so terrible being disabled that we hate the world, that we're going to take it over and ruin it for everybody. We're either victims because our impairments must be so terrible that we don't want to live our lives anymore. Or we're inspirations, either for the audience or for other people in the movie. I always said growing up as an actor, when I did train to be an actor and still am, in between all the consultancy work I do, because I was a professional wrestler for 20 years now, I always said, I'm going to be the world's first disabled action hero. Hasn't happened yet. But why couldn't it? If you can spend millions of dollars green screening off a non-disabled person's arm to make their performance seem more legitimate, I can save you millions of dollars. Employ me. I don't have to learn how to perform to play disabled. I've already got that down. That I don't have to wait.
And do you know somebody without an arm?
I do.
Oh.
Funny that.
Look at that.
But I don't have to spend 6 months learning how to play disabled. I can just get down into the nitty-gritty of your character and give you the best performance on screen possible. And if you've got other people like me behind the scenes helping you meet those access requirements for the deaf and disabled talent so that they're not having to go, oh, actually, I need a lift here, I need a car here, and you've got somebody sorting that so all they have to do is concentrate on the script and the performance. Think of the performances you're going to get, and if somebody tells me again there's no money in disabled personalities in film, I'm just going to hit my head against a brick wall. Because Coda's just won an Oscar. Coda's won multiple Oscars. So you cannot turn round to me and say, there's no market for it. There's no awards in it. Do you know what? Only 3 people out of all the people that have won Oscars for playing disabled people were genuinely disabled. 3. That has to change. You will get better performances from genuine disabled performers because they don't have to concentrate on playing disabled than you will hiring a non-disabled performer that has to spend 6 months to a year learning how to do it.
Well, there we go. Ask the question, how do we do it? I mean, Coda is a great example of the power, the people's interest in stories, whether they're disabled stories or whether they're just stories about people. You know, you can describe Coda as a story of a young woman who is struggling with her identity and choosing between her family and her friends and her life. What does her life look like in different circumstances? And that's a story that's universal and resonates with us all. And the fact that it's got this kind of deaf community component wrapped around that almost just makes it even more interesting. I think it's also really powerful that Marvel had their first deaf superhero, and that provoked, what was it, 250% increase interest in ASL as a language. So
Indeed, but just as an example to add on to that, when I say if you don't know, ask somebody with lived experience. If you watch wonderful programs like Hawkeye from Marvel and like The Eternals, it's great, they've got a sign language using character. But if you actually watch the photography, half the time the sign language isn't on screen. So you have to read captions to know what the character with sign language is saying because you can't see the sign language.
Well, I think that's a great segue into Seneit, who is providing the exact solution to this, because it's also the flip side of this, you know, is that accessibility for the disabled community as well, and so that it's not just about getting the disabled community into film, but getting film to the disabled community. And so, you know, I want to hand over to you to tell us about the solution that Greta and Starks has. And I know you have a presentation to share with us to give us all the facts and figures that we need to know. So,
yes, that's right. Thank you very much, Amy. Hello, everyone. I'm totally excited to be here on the main stage with my issue, accessibility. That's for the first time. It's like the dream come true. Usually, not many people are interested in my accessibility tour. Today it's different, and I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Think Impact Film and Cannes Film Festival for this opportunity. And then also I'm very grateful to share this passion with the both of you for accessibility. And I also think this is a very big market for us, making the audiovisual market accessible. We think it's 845 million people globally who we should include in cinema and our work. So let me tell you very briefly the story about the pizza cutter. First, it was invented to help people with a disability, or maybe different abled people with one arm. And then all of a sudden it became this big thing, the big solution for everyone. And now everyone is using pizza cutter and no one remembers the story, but this is exactly how we think inclusion, how inclusion should be. Okay, so this is Barbara Fickert. She's, once we started our application, she's one of the first people who is not now only able to access cinema with our app and have audio description, but now she's also a lobbyist. She founded her own non-profit company to found even more accessibility versions. And now she's really a badass social impact entrepreneur, an ambassador for inclusion, and also a role model. And that is what can happen once we have the solutions to include and welcome people in the cinema screening, for instance. We have this, as you said, when you ask in the room who wants to have inclusion, then everyone would say, yeah, I love inclusion. But when you ask, okay, who is ready to pay for it, then maybe no one is going to raise hands. And that's why we thought about how to implement our solution to generate value. I mean, first value is that people with sight and hearing loss are able, with their families, as you said, with the whole community, to participate in cinema. But then, moreover, what other kind of values can we create? And so in the meantime, with our application, we have over 900 films made accessible by big partners like, as you can see, Universal, Warner, and many other companies. Different genres, family entertainment, but also horror movies. And then more than 500,000 people were able to access cinema. And that's, again, only the people using our app. It's not with it's the families and their friends and colleagues are not included. And this was generated 3.8 million admissions euros at box office. But how did this start? The first time when I shot a documentary, I met a blind person for the first time in my life. Meaning, if I had met this person earlier, or if someone from you would have met this person, then we all could have come up with this idea to make cinema accessible even earlier. So meaning inclusion, as you said, is not only about money or about, it's really, it opens up the door for inspiration and new business opportunities. Next to that, this is the only thing our world should be. Okay, so general, I was saying about generating value. So our technology enables not only to give access to audio description and closed captions for people with sight and hearing loss, but also for people who speak other languages. And as you said, it's only differently abled people. It's not necessarily disabled people, because people in Germany, for instance, where I come from, that's why my accent is so strongly German. So if you don't understand my English, please raise your hand. I'm sorry, but I can't. So in Germany, for instance, films are dubbed, and then as an English-speaking people, as an Italian-speaking people, you are only differently abled. You speak a language, you can see, you can hear, but not the language, you don't speak the language. So therefore, we have this multilingual approach with the same technology, broadening the whole market. And then it's very easy. The rights owner uploads everything to our backend, and from there it can be accessible globally. And then also another idea and another solution is what we call audio film. It started with audio description for people with sight loss, but when you add the soundtrack, you have an audio film, and then everyone can enjoy. It's not only blind people, but everywhere globally while traveling or whatever, you can have another market for your films by combining this. So then and increasing the market. Another value our technology creates is data and insights to make even more better offers. And then the technology we use covers all the distribution channels, starting at film festivals and cinema, and then but also going further to streaming, television, and then, as I said, audio film. So if one of you is as a distributing company or a production company, this is the tool you can use, and mostly it's for free, and then you can give access easily for all the distribution channels and all the target groups. We have more than 30 partners in other territories for our social impact project, because, as you said, it's not only about giving access to cinema and audiovisual content, it's also making our target group being the business owner themselves, generating jobs and incomes. Because we started this because it was not there, but why should we continue doing this? Our target group themselves, as you saw Barbara earlier, they can do it themselves, and that's also generating a business opportunity. And in all these countries, we have already individuals or organizations who are ready to start. Just to summarize what we offer with our app, we offer audio description for people with sight loss, closed captions for people with hearing impairment or which are deaf, and then also sound amplification for people who can still hear but have hearing difficulties. And then also, as I said, multilingual people, and also easy language, sign language, and yeah, just totally different people opening up for your business. It's not only that we love what we do, and we really do love what we do, but it's also that people love our work. And we get frequently, like each week, feedback from people saying, like, I went to cinema with my blind daughter for the first time, and thank you for this incredible app and for this piece of normality for me and my daughter. And so this is the feedback basically to all of you who are filmmakers, distributors, film festival organizers, because this is what can happen if we enable it. Okay, so I could tell you much more, but I want to keep it brief. This is my LinkedIn contact. If you have questions or if you can't wait to start making your films accessible, please scan the code and get in contact. Before I say thank you, the technology is really ready. And imagine this is the 21st century. People can fly to the moon, but in some countries or in some cinemas, it's still not possible that blind people or people with hearing impairs or even foreign language people and many other people are not able to access cinema or television or streaming, and we cannot let this continue. So the technology is there, and I hope I can count on you that we are going to change this starting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seneit. I mean, we've gone from changing the steps to changing the cinemas to changing how we engage with content as a whole. I think what's really powerful about what you're doing is that you're changing our expectations when we come to film, that how we should experience it, whether we're able, disabled, differently abled, however we describe ourselves, that it's, I think it's really powerful that you're doing what Emmanuel's doing, what Dan is doing, breaking down the barriers so that it's no longer, oh, this is an app for disabled people, and this is bringing accessibility to this group of people. It's about bringing new ways of engaging with content for all of us. I can see, Dan, that you want to leap in here. I was wondering, actually, before you do, I have a hard question. I said we don't shy away from the hard questions. Yeah. Seneit's app is an amazing tool and powerfully changing the landscape here, but it's also, you're an independent organization. It's not a structural solution in that sense. And I know that, See Talent and yourself, you talk a lot about this structural model of disability and the societal disadvantage that comes not because you're physically disabled, but because society makes you disabled in that way. And so, is it enough? I mean, I'm sure the answer to this for you is going to be obvious. Is it enough that we have tools and adaptations and that we get rid of the stairs, or is there something that's still needed that we haven't quite realised yet?
Well, you've kind of started off where I was going to go anyway, so thank you for that. So there's a thing called the social model of disability, and this basically says it's not somebody's impairment, so it's not the fact that I have cerebral palsy, that I'm a part-time wheelchair user, that makes me disabled. It's the fact that the world is inaccessible, people's attitudes and communication barriers that make me disabled. So, for example, when I'm in my house, I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, because I've got all the adaptions I need, I've got all the support I need. The minute I step outside my front door and there's stairs to get up to Cannes, I become disabled because I can't access them. And I think the thing is, when companies are making movies, what they don't realise is, we've said on this stage already that 1 in 4 people is disabled. So you look at the size of a film crew, and you look at the people that go, no, I'm not disabled. There's either really no disabled people in the industry, or there are people that don't feel comfortable going, I am disabled in the film industry. So what we encourage companies to do at C Talent is start to make access requirements and meeting access requirements a line item in your budget. Because looking at the social model and what the social model preaches and produces, if I'm there as your disability and access consultant going, well, you've got a wheelchair user in the cast. We need ramps here, we need transport here, we need this, that, and the other. If I'm putting in ramps for a wheelchair user, guess what else those ramps are good for? Your $400,000 cameras that you've got to get down that hill. I can go down the same ramp as a $400,000 camera, and it means you can set up your set quicker because I've helped you in your recce's make your set accessible. So I'm saving you time, I'm saving you effort, and I'm saving you money by you putting that line item to employ me and implement accessibility on your set. So not only are we making films more accessible for deaf and disabled talent and encouraging more creative, wonderful deaf and disabled talent to come into the film industry and tell stories that non-disabled talent, God bless you all, have never thought of because it's not in your remit to think of them. I'm also helping everybody else on set make your films quicker, smarter, and easier. So put accessibility as a line item into your budget and employ somebody like me as a consultant to help you fill those gaps, and you're going to save time, effort, and make more money at the box office. And that's what everybody is here to do. Despite the fact that it's a nice thing to do, everybody is also here to make money. So it's a two-stranded system.
And I just want to add to that, actually. When you do build those ramps, I hope you don't mind, when you do build those ramps or really cool stairs that turn into ramps, you know, we are 21st century, figure out how to innovate, lads. But when you do build them, don't build them off to the side. Because, again, you're discarding that. Yes, you might be on the same ramp as that $400,000 camera, but shit, I'm definitely worth more than $400,000. I don't want to go up a $400,000 ramp. I want to go up the main ramp, the main stairs. I want people to embrace, to see me. I want people to realize that I'm no different. Or, better yet, my difference is what makes me perfect. Just like every single person in this room who has their imperfections. When you look at a TV screen, and I'll add this little example. When you watch a movie or a TV and you see an LGBTQ plus person on the screen, or you see an African American or a black person or an Arab or whatever it is, or tomato, right? You don't ask, oh, I wonder why that person is Arab. I wonder what that story is. Why is that person LGBTQ? Why is he black? No, you don't ask that. You just watch it and enjoy the piece of content. So when you create the content, there's no reason that the differently able person really truly needs, according to the audience, maybe to the writers and the writing room, sure. But to the audience, we don't really need to know why that person is in a wheelchair or is missing an arm or whatever it is. We just need to see them do what they do best, as you said. Or better yet, we just need to see each other do what we do best. That's inclusion. That's true inclusion.
Yeah, and just to add on to bouncing back from you now, the reason audiences still ask that question, why are they disabled, why are they there, is because still seeing deaf and disabled people on screen is rare. Stigma. It's rare, and there's stigma still attached. The only way you're going to stop audiences asking that question is to show more deaf and disabled people on TV that aren't telling stories about their medical history and why they became disabled. You can tell those stories, and there are people that want to tell those stories, but trust me, you can tell any other story with a disabled performer. Look at Avatar, one of the biggest grossing movies of all time. The lead character was disabled, was a wheelchair user. But was the performer disabled? No.
Are you sure?
To my knowledge. But he definitely isn't a wheelchair user.
He's definitely not a wheelchair user, right? I mean, we've seen him walk, right? Yeah. Okay, just
Yeah,
making sure.
Exactly.
I don't know that, but I do know that in Avatar 2, we were
I'm
very
being
fortunate
sarcastic.
last year. CJ Jones, who is an incredible deaf actor and comedian, came and spoke last year, and we you know, he's so expressive and fantastic, and you know, we were thrilled to know that he was also in Avatar 2, and like,
Indeed.
so yeah, that's
And one of C Talent's talent
one of the
roster.
talents I can see that Seneit
Yeah.
wants to come in here.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to confirm that, as you said, for black actors, for instance, or other people of color, or yeah, I know. I'm just saying that it is very new that you see like black actors, and then they are just a doctor or just the neighbor, and not an immigrant or a terrorist or something like this. But that means there's hope, and let's fight this together, because in the near future we see differently abled people, and they're not terrorists or I don't know, something like this, but just the neighbor or the consultant or something like this, or just the best friend.
Well, we're going to have to wrap up fairly shortly, but that's kind of where I want to come to each of you for a final kind of quick-fire closing remark of that hope that you talk about. What are the signs of hope? Give us something that you've seen, something that you've experienced, something that you are doing that is a sign of hope, that for how things are changing, how the world is changing and is going to continue to change. Emmanuel, maybe let's start with you. I mean, you are
That's a great
a
question.
sign of Outlier itself is a sign of hope.
Look, I mean, there's a lot of celebrities and people like Chris Martin who are supporting this incredible movement and innovation, right? Because this is what it is. It is innovation. It's just a different form. We like to call it, you know, empowerment and enabling and accessibility and all that sort of stuff, but that's innovation. The reason Siri was originally created, or Google Speaks was originally created, was to support that, and now one of the biggest innovations of the 21st century is an AI that talks back to you, and that was created for that market. So I think, look, the research is there, and I think knowing, I was saying to Dan in the bathroom, greatest place to do your research, lads, but I was saying to Dan in the bathroom, I said, you know, Dan, it's an incredible world that we live in, but the reality is I don't blame anybody, and nobody, I hope, in the differently able, disabled community blames anybody for not making things like this accessible, whatever. It just comes down to innocent ignorance, which leads to laziness, which leads to not wanting or having the willingness to spend, right? But here's the reality. If you do spend, then your potential return, according to the Ruderman Foundation, is $125 billion a year, annually, just in film and television streaming alone, every year. That doesn't include music touring and music and concerts, which we're also going to be tapping into. That doesn't include the representation of talent. It doesn't include the representation of sports or the sporting arena. It just includes that one sector. That's huge. So we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars just within the media entertainment sector alone that can be generated yearly. Just let that brew in your head. That's what you're all missing out on. And shit, I like making money. Don't we all? So let's make money together. Why not? So that's how I'm going to finish it off. Let's end the stigma and make some bloody money together and create a much more innovative and intelligent and empathetic society. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's become outliers together. By the way, you're all invited to the event tomorrow. Come to the event.
So what gives me hope is really being here and really soaking up the energy and really the passion and understanding that, as I said, accessibility and inclusion is on the main stage in Cannes today. This is really huge. And my vision for the future is that we have in the same cinema room differently abled people, different languages, but all sit in the same room and laugh at the same scene. And that is going to happen in each cinema, in each country, globally. This is my vision, and for that I would like to collaborate with you and with you and with all of you. And yeah, I hope this is going to come through very soon.
What gives me hope? You lot, everybody in this room. Because you've come into this room to listen, to learn, to go back to all the companies you work with and go, we had these 3 awesome people on stage. They've told us how we can earn a bunch of money, tell cool stories, make cool movies and change the world. Let's do it. You lot have got the power to do that. I'm here to help you. Emmanuel's here to help you. We're all here to help you with our lived experience, with our knowledge. And we'll teach you the social model and the right language to use, the preferred language to use. Just pay us first. Pay us first.
That's it. We'll do it for you. Just give us the money.
You know, we need to be paid too. We got bills to pay. But in all
It's
seriousness,
for free, by the way.
but in all seriousness, you guys in this room have got the power to talk to us and help make that change. So if I talk to 3, 4, 5 of you as I leave this room and you go, you need to come to my kiosk and talk to the guys, we'll do it. We'll start putting things in motion. This is what this festival is about, as well as the shiny film premieres and airplanes flying past my hotel room last night. It's about making contacts and changing the business and selling products and making business deals. So talk to me after this show and let's start making that change. Let's leave a legacy of this room outside of this room.
Powerful stuff, guys. So we've started with the problem and we've ended with a solution. We are going to be putting disability consulting in budget lines. We are going to be downloading the Greta app and sharing it with our friends, and we're all going to be supporting Outlier and becoming outliers together. So thank you so much all for coming. It really does mean a lot that you have come today to think about disability, to be inclusive, accepting, and changing the film industry from within. Thank you to my panelists for being delightful and insightful, and I will hand back over to...
Can I add one more little thing?
Wow. How could I refuse?
John Lennon said these lines. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Well, guess what? I'm not the only one. She's not the only one. He's not the only one. impACT is not the only one. We're all bloody dreamers. We're all bloody dreamers. But these dreams can be turned into reality. So let's turn some reality, or let's turn some dreams into real realities. And I'll end on that. Thank you.
Emmanuel Kelly, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Daniela, too.
Hello? Oh, amazing, it's working at the moment. I have to say that bringing a session like this to Cannes is just so inspiring, because even if it's not perfect, they open the doors, they want the discussions, they want the support. So I think it's really important to remember that in every moment of disruption, there is also people that stand behind you and believe in making it possible, and they are starting to make it possible here. So I also want to say thank you to Cannes for making this panel possible. And we're now moving on to our next session. Thank you, everybody. We're going to do a little